discuss with all this, I have none other than South African player JP Dumini. I also have been joined by Naresh from Pune, as well as my young son Sahil. Welcome to all of you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anis.
Dinesh.
Thank you.
Right, JP, the first thing in the morning, the news when it broke out that a couple of KKR players, have tested positive, rather the third test. So this definitely was a big jolt to the IPL. Now,
Yep.
you as a player, if you were one of the players in the KKR camp, what would be going through your mind?
I think it doesn't have, it's not only about the KKR camp. I think there would be some concerns across all platforms, whether you be player, management. There would be some concerns across all teams
All right.
because of a bio bubble scenario. There'll be questions as to how did, players or any kind of staff member test positive. Because of the protocols that were in place. So I think the first step is the question for me should not be as first point of call, should not be whether it should go on or shouldn't go on. I think it requires further conversations around transparency, around is there an opportunity to identify how this happened, firstly. And once they've identified that, if at all so, right, what can we do? What precautions can we put in place to hopefully secure everyone involved that they're not at risk anymore? I think that is the conversation that needs to happen. If they find the reason as to where it came in, and the reason then is a sort of a breach one, or it's something that they can't necessarily control, then there needs to be a further conversation, right? Is this a high risk situation where we would need to look at other options? That's unfortunately where that conversation will come in. Having been involved in bubbles before, there is an utmost amount of work and effort and honest conversations that happen to make sure that players and staff and everybody involved are taken care of. So they'll be very disappointed with the fact that something has happened like this because of all the effort and money spent and so forth, and protocols that have been put in place. And we've seen some successful bubbles being produced over the last year. So it'll be unfortunate. But as I said, I don't think it's a case of just yes and no. There needs to be some transparent conversations with players, and players will have the right to ask some challenging questions, and not players alone on that. It will have to be obviously everybody involved, and then find some resolutions. If not, then further conversations will need to be had.
Fair point, JP. But what we understood from one of the sources, rather one of the sites, that a couple of players had gone for a scan wearing their PE kit through the green channel of the IPL.
Sure.
And there is the possibility that it would have probably, they must have got affected.
Sure.
In this scenario, like you said in your first statement, that we need to first identify that how this virus could have affected, or there was a 0.1 breach or 0.2 breach or 0.3. So in this scenario, suppose if they're able to identify that no, the players cannot go out for a scan because it is risky, because you don't know whom you come in touch with, even though if you were fully covered. What happens in this scenario then? And how does a player go out for a treatment?
Well, I guess the next point of call is, and I know it'll also depend on the extent of the potential injury. Is there a way of bringing that into the bubble space? So if whatever treatment is needed, whether it be a scan, X-ray, whatever, is that machinery available in a bubble space? I think that would probably be the next question. I mean, the likelihood of it is probably not very high, because I would imagine that would be a difficult process to unfold. But that would be my first point of call. At the end of the day, I don't know the extent of making those things happen, but they would need to somehow bring everything into this bubble secure space and take all risk away. Because I mean, you look at what happened with the PSL a few months ago as well with that postponement. It's there's always going to be some kind of risk, and you're trying to do as best as you can and try and control as much as you can. But there's always that uncertainty. I mean, you think about players traveling, even playing playing or traveling from Mumbai to Delhi, as an example. There's always some kind of risk, particularly with the high amount of cases that are happening in India currently. It is a high risk country, so which aids in terms of the high risk factor for players, staff members, match officials. So you just never know. So yeah, some important conversations are going to need to be had, and some important decisions made.
All right. I'll come to you, JP. Naresh, my question to you. Now you are sitting in Pune, where you said
Yeah.
to me a few days ago that the cases have gone up. Now, as a normal person, continuing with an IPL is a good idea.
Anis, as a cricket fan, because I have the luxury that I can spend time at home and need not move out, I feel it is entertaining me. But overall, the sentiment is not good, because those who have to keep moving out on a regular basis and are struggling with things, I don't think this is something which they are even concerned about, or what is happening in IPL. But yeah, I do agree to the fact that somewhere it does help divert the attention from all the negativity around, or all the concerns that we have around us. It holds us back in the house, to be very honest, because we are under curfew in the night. So it goes both the ways. It is good also. At least you have 3 to 4 hours where you are spending at home with families, watching something of your own interest. Even if there was no IPL, you would be watching some movies or being online with friends. So it has both the ways. Personally, I feel good that the IPL is on, until yesterday at least. And yeah, this unfortunately what has happened, it seems there is a level of confidence that has gone down. And as JP said, it is the transparency not only with the players and the team management, it is also the boards who have released the players. They would have questions around what actually went wrong. The medical system, the entire thing is so overwhelmed. Getting the entire, like scanners and all into the bio bubble is going to become a challenge now from going ahead. How they're going to mitigate this particular thing, where actually the lapse happened, to identify. Uh, Really, it's a bit of a situation to how to manage that. Because I recently, I just read a news 10 minutes back. Delhi Capitals have been asked to be in isolation now for a week, purely because they played the last game 4 days back against KKR. So it's going to be tough. Initial plan was something different. This became a second plan of playing in multiple cities. Purely, I think the original plan was Mumbai, because it has 3 grounds, and Pune another fourth ground close to Mumbai. So it would have been very identical to UAE last year, where there would have been only surface transport of about an hour's drive, and you are in the same hotel. Then it changed to multiple cities. So now, is there another plan ready to go ahead? Because we have already crossed one half of the IPL. Can there be a break? Can there be 7 to 14 days isolation and start the second half? Do we have enough time in the entire calendar of the future program? All this needs to be, and yes, a lot of players now would have that little bit of a panic, that now what next? Though they have said the testing is going to be daily, but you don't know what's going to come out in the end. So yeah, there's a little bit of a concern, Anis. Yeah.
Well said, Naresh. Sahil, I wanted to ask you, you've been watching the IPL daily. Now that such a scenario has happened in IPL, what do you think is the way forward? What would you, as your young mind, would like to, suggest that what action should be taken?
Now, since the KKR camp has contracted the virus, also the Chennai Super Kings can, And also now Delhi Capitals, I just found out from Mr. Naresh that they are into isolation. So I think, it's just a simple solution now that I think they should not play for a week. I think every team should go for an isolation of at least 1 week, because this is the only way now. There's no solution. You can't take a risk, as India, unfortunately, is not in the best state. Risk cannot be taken. No, I mean, I think they should go for a week's isolation, but then they will think about how the foreign players will cope up with this. Maybe the Indians, they will be able to cope up. But what about the Australians, the South Africans? Will they be able to take this one more week into a self-isolation? But I don't think they should continue playing for a week, for sure.
Okay, what Sal is trying to say, JP, is that maybe a week hard quarantine where, like generally you come to know that because when you do one test, you might come negative, but you never know that the second test or the third test come positive. Like in Chakravarti's case, the third test came positive. So that 1 week hard quarantine might help to save the IPL this year.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point or suggestion. And but again, what Sahel is mentioning there about the mental state of players, and honestly, I don't think it's only the overseas players. I think all players
Indian
involved.
players too.
Yeah, what toll is this going to take on players? Having been in a few isolation periods, it is mentally fatiguing, to be honest with you. Not being able to move literally within a 10 square foot radius, it is challenging. Not having any sort of face-to-face interaction for a period of time can take its toll. And already, I mean, you think about a bio bubble currently, how that operates. You're very limited in your movements already, and now halfway through, you're needing to go through another process. So again, it comes down to transparent conversations, honest conversations. Are the players willing and able? Is it a case of pressing pause and finding another gap in the calendar, as we've seen with the PSL? From a mental state point of view, that could be a possibility that everyone involved goes for. But again, with where the cases are going in India currently, how do you find another gap for it? That's going to be the hard conversation. So again, it comes down to some hard conversations, hard decisions. But yeah, everybody needs to be taken into account. But I agree with Naresh. I mean, from a holistic point of view and from a country perspective, being in the state that it's in, a hard lockdown, number of cases are through the roof. Having the entertainment factor for the majority of the country, definitely takes their minds off the current situation and brings a lot of hope and I guess excitement somewhat to the country. And you often seeing some sort of proposals around what to do, in certain situations around isolation, washing hands, particularly with the commentators and the players. There are adverts out there, so they are reminding the people of what needs to be done. So there is that factor as well. But jeepers, it's a tough time at the moment, not only in India but in our country, and we empathize with everybody. We know that it's a tough time in families, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to everyone.
Fair point, JP. Like you mentioned that, staying in a bubble, and already most of the players have been going through different bubbles, whether it is an Australian player or an England player, because they've been there for a long time. Like Sahil says that it might take a toll mentally on players' mind. But now the scene for the foreign players, why I'm trying to talk about the foreign players, is that their flights have been shut down. Like Australia said that they will not allow flights from India. So if I am an Australian player, let's presume a Steven Smith, and I've been told that you can't travel. So I would rather not go into a hard quarantine and go and finish the tournament till that time things eases out.
You see, the difficulty is that you don't know when that ban will be raised. So, for instance, if they now go through this process of let's say quarantining for a week to 10 days and then finishing the tournament, and then you come to the end of the tournament, and now you have to quarantine in a different country again before you enter your own country, as opposed to leaving now, quarantining in a different country, and then going home. So again, that's going to be the question, and it's going to be an individual question. It's not going to be holistic questions. Every player is going to need to be able to answer that honestly, and everyone needs to respect everyone's position on it, and then it becomes a back and forth conversation of what is the best way forward.
Fair enough. Naresh, let me come to you. Like you mentioned that the country is going through a very emotional time at the moment, where there have been so many deaths happening. And at one stage, there is also an IPL happening, which is entertaining for a few people who love cricket, or it distracts the mind. But is IPL responsible for what's happening in the country?
No, Anish, not at all. It's at least giving hopes for many who are taken care by IPL, or their families are taken care by IPL. Those who work behind the scene, the hotel staff is there, the kitchen staff is there, the drivers, the other people who have been working behind the scene to have the event going ahead. Yes, the crowds are not allowed, but like you heard, there's some groundsmen in Delhi who have tested positive. Rather, the same thing had happened in Mumbai just few days before the IPL had started. So it now comes to the responsibility, is BCCI taking care of them? I think that's going to be one part of compassion, to show that yes, all those who are involved to have this event on and probably going on in the future are well taken care of. Because it's a divided country at this point of time on IPL, but IPL is not responsible of what is happening. It would have still gone on. Like last year, it was in the UAE. We were still under lockdown here, and the sentiment was same, that at least we have some cricket going on. It's the same thing. It's the only difference is happening in our own country, and unfortunately, it is happening in the states or the cities where even the case numbers have gone up. So that's giving a very mixed reaction, and a little bit of a sadness across that, why this needs to continue. But coming on JP's point on overseas as well as Indian cricketers, now that this has happened, so far there was confidence that the bubble is well secured. I think the question now will come in, that in case of we needing medical emergency, how that is going to be handled. Because currently there is a lot of stress on the entire medical infrastructure in the country. So that is going to be a matter of concern to answer if there is any need.
Okay. Sahil, now let me ask you a question. Like Naresh mentioned, that IPL is not responsible for what is happening in the country. At the same time, IPL is also ensuring that the people behind the scenes are getting some work to, and are getting paid decently enough. So you as a fan, you imagine, God forbid, some of your close relatives pass away in this situation. How would you take it? Would you look at a negative way at an IPL, or would you look at as a fine? No, this is a part of life. I will take it on my chin and move ahead.
Honestly, like supposedly if someone passes away, obviously I'd be sad. But what does the IPL have to do with someone passing away? It's a game of cricket. It's an entertainment for the people. Like India, suppose India is in a lockdown. For people at home, they can watch the match. It's an entertainment for them. So what does the IPL have to do with this? They're just playing. The IPL players are not going outside and enjoying. They're in the bubble. They're doing this for their career also. They're trying to build up their career by playing in the IPL. So I don't think the IPL has to do anything with this. It's just a game of cricket. Yes, if the Indian board decides that the players should not get affected, then they should stop the IPL for the players' sake. But I don't think IPL has to do anything with what's going on outside, to be honest.
Well said, my young son. I'm glad you used that point, that if the BCCI feels that the players are finally getting affected, it can be stopped. JP, do you agree to this point?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the obvious one. If there's and it's not only about the players at the end of the day, it's about everyone involved. As much as we respect the fact that players are in many ways the highest commodity in the entertainment industry with regards to cricket, there's no lesser stake on somebody else's life other than a player if they are part of the environment. So everybody's important, and from a decision-making point of view, you got to make sure that you're looking after everyone. But if there's an aspect where they don't have control and can't control what is happening, yeah, they're going to need to look at different options.
All right, now we've already passed one phase where we have almost finished 29 games. First phase has been passed. Now we need to finish more 31 games, including the playoffs and the final. Now the next destination after Delhi and Ahmedabad, I think, is Bangalore as well as Kolkata, and then we move the playoffs straight back to Ahmedabad, right, Naresh?
Yeah.
Now, logistically, like Naresh mentioned that when you travel, or I think JP mentioned that when you travel from airport to airport, there is a chance that you can catch the virus even if you are in the PE kit. Now, is it not possible that if they go into a hard quarantine, JP, this is my question to you. If they go into a hard quarantine, they select probably 2 venues and finish off this IPL?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a viable option. When we talk about the initial plan that was there was talks about Mumbai, and you mentioned there Pune as well as the 4th venue. I think that could be a viable option because, again, it's all about minimizing risk for everyone involved. And, traveling on the road obviously minimizes that because there's a sense of control around that. So I think that will be something that they will look into. I think there's also an option of just keeping it in Mumbai, and kind of, because Mumbai is a city where you can really find security for the bio bubble, I think, when it comes to hotels, when it comes to travel. It's probably one of the cities that has a really good infrastructure when it comes to that. So that's going to be a definite option, I believe.
Okay. Good, gentlemen. We just wanted to have this small chat to understand that what is the way forward, and really appreciate your views. Thank you, JP. I really appreciate
Naresh, Ayil, good to see you guys. It's good to see
come
you
on such
smiling,
short notice. And Sahil, love your input as always. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Guys, how's South Africa, JP, for you? All is okay?
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, our cases are pretty steady. I mean, you're probably looking anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 cases a day in terms of infections, deaths. I mean, it's hard to say that it looks good. Any death is not good, but it's sort of hovering around 50 to 100 at the moment. But there seems to be some kind of hold over it now. There was talks and is still talks of a 3rd wave possibly, but currently we seem to be steady. I think that's the best way to put it.
So we all hope things get better everywhere, anywhere in the world. As JP said, that even one that is not good to anybody which happens, we need to minimize as much as possible and hope that things fall in place for every person. Thank you, guys. Take good care of yourselves.